Good afternoon from Tucson, Arizona. We are so excited to welcome all of you to this month's immersive session. As the director of the Integrative Medicine elective rotation at the Andrew Weil Center for Integrative Medicine, we are really proud of our faculty and the opportunity we have each month to offer an experience with one of our teachers. This month, we have the special pleasure of welcoming Dr. Andrew Weil, who is not only the founder of the Center for Integrative Medicine, but a staunch supporter of our elective rotation. Welcome, Dr. Weil. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Devorah, and welcome to my home. My dogs are here with me and say hello to you. And I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes first about breathing, one of my favorite subjects. I teach everyone I come into contact with some about how to breathe properly. The qualities of breath that you want to develop are to make it deeper, slower, quieter, and more regular whenever you think about it. And you can use control of the breath to change the function of the involuntary nervous system, and through that influence many body functions, including circulation, heart rate, blood pressure, digestion, so forth. Many of you may know the 4-7-8 breath that I have been teaching people for many years. You can find a detailed explanation of that on YouTube if you go under my name and 4-7-8. And this is the most powerful relaxation technique that I've ever discovered. It works effectively even for the most severe forms of panic disorder. And the feedback that I've gotten from patients and friends and colleagues over the years who've practiced it has just been remarkable. So let me just describe that technique to you and then demonstrate it, and then we can do it together. This is a yoga technique, thousands of years old. In yoga breathing, you're asked to keep your tongue in the yogic position, touching the tip of the tongue to the ridge of tissue above and behind the upper teeth, like that. And you just keep it there the whole time. In this exercise, you breathe in quietly through your nose, then blow air out forcefully through your mouth, like making a sound. So the exercise begins by letting all the air out your mouth. Then you breathe in through your nose quietly to a count of 4, hold your breath for a count of 7, and blow air out through your mouth to a count of 8. And you do this for 4 breath cycles. So let me demonstrate it to you. Just watch, and then we'll do it together. Looks like this. That's all. Very simple, takes no time. It's a little hard for me to come back and talk to you after I do that because it produces a very pleasant altered state of consciousness that I'd rather stay in. That you may not get that the first time you do it, but it's one of the rewards of practicing this. So let's try that together, and I'll count for you at a rate that I think will be comfortable. What limits you is how long you can comfortably hold your breath. As you practice this over time, you can slow the whole exercise down. So begin by blowing air out through your mouth. Now close your mouth in through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Close in. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more in. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now just breathe normally. Some of you may feel a little lightheaded doing this the first time. That's not the goal, and that will disappear with practice. You have to practice this. This is an exercise that you practice. You must do it religiously at least twice a day. Do it more frequently if you want, but minimum twice a day. And over time, say in 4 to 6 weeks, you will begin to see remarkable changes in your body and in your mind. So I can't recommend this too highly. Should we go into the kitchen and cook? Let's go. I have here a pile of black kale. It's also called lacinato kale or dinosaur kale. The Italian name is cavolo nero. It's a relatively new introduction in this country. It's a more heat tolerant kale, has a sweeter flavor. And I'm going to make sauteed kale very simply. A quick and easy dish, can become a main dish if you mix it with pasta or grains. And I'm going to begin by removing the tough midribs from the kale. And the easiest way to do that is just grab it like this and rip the stem out. So I've done that with these over here. I'm just going to do that with the rest of it. The great mistake, but this method that I'm going to show you applies to really all greens, beet greens, collards. And the great mistake that I see people make with greens is overcooking them. When you look at Southern cooking, greens are often cooked for an hour, hour and a half, usually with bacon fat, not the healthiest preparation. I find that very quick sauteing keeps the bright green color of the greens, and the flavor is terrific. So I'm going to slice up half of an onion. I'm going to turn some medium heat on my skillet. This is a, people ask me what I cook with. This is a Scan Pan CTX. Scan Pan CTXs are made in Denmark. They're a new generation of nonstick cookware with an inert ceramic coating. And they're a snap to clean, and I love to cook with them. So I'm going to put a bit of olive oil in the skillet. And I'm going to add the onion. And I'm going to put in that a pinch of red pepper flakes. Obviously, that's how much you use is up to you. And I'm going to saute the onion just until it's translucent. I'm going to put a very tiny amount of salt in this. I don't use more because kale concentrates salt from the soil. So kale and most greens, before you add salt, I would taste them. And sometimes you don't need any. So this is beginning to cook. And as I said, I'm just going to cook it over medium heat just until the onion becomes translucent. Then I'm going to chop the kale roughly. Now, one thing you should be aware of is that greens shrink tremendously when they're cooked. So this seems like a great volume, but it's going to cook down to a much smaller one. And this can be a side dish, or as I said, you can mix the sauteed kale with pasta or a cooked grain and make a main dish out of it. It's a good pile of kale. Some other things you can add. I'm just going to do the kale and onions and red pepper, but you could add capers at the end, olives, sun-dried tomatoes. The pan again is a scan pan, CTX. There's several kinds of scan pans. The CTX is the best one. You can get them on Amazon. They come in various sizes. I do an awful lot of cooking in them. I just find them very convenient. Almost done here. I don't get the onions brown. I just get them translucent. So I'm going to put, and some of the water that I rinsed the kale with is still cleaning the leaves, which is fine. And as this cooks, which is going to be pretty quick, you'll see the color of the kale change from this bluish green to a bright green. And the leaves will soften and shrink. And again, you don't want to overcook them. You just want them bright green and tender. It's a very quick process. If the kale is, or the greens are very dry, if you've dried them completely, you can midway put a little bit of, just a little splash of water in to keep them from sticking or browning. So you can see them turning a nice emerald green color, and the bluish is disappearing. And most of the kale is now wilted. And look how that volume has shrunk. So you want to be sure to cook enough of that you have enough of the raw kale that it's going to make enough servings for you. It's almost done. Now I like to flavor sauteed greens like this with vinegar. You can use wine vinegar. I'm going to put a little bit of balsamic vinegar on this at the end. So this is just about done. I'm going to turn it off. Put a splash of vinegar in. Vinegar cuts the slight bitterness of greens and really enhances the flavor. So that's it. And as I said, you could just get you could serve this as a side dish, or you could add cooked pasta to it and it's a main dish, or mix it with rice or another grain. It's beautiful. I'm going to taste it. Yum, yum, and doesn't need any salt. The salt that was enough in the kale. I used balsamic vinegar, but you could use red wine vinegar, white wine vinegar, whatever you like. I think vinegar really goes well on greens. Next up, look how quick that was. Kale is full of nutrients, high in calcium, full of carotenoid pigments. It's cheap, available, a wonderful vegetable to serve. Okay, let's go into the garden. Okay. I'm afraid the garden is not looking its best right now because it's in the transition between winter and spring. So a lot of stuff has been pulled up. I've just planted some things. This was waste space out here, and it's been great to turn this into a wonderful productive garden. So I still have left, this is chard, which I'm going to let get bigger. I have a little forest of dill, more chard. This is a field of spearmint, which I have to fight back constantly. I have some Japanese herbs growing here, and I've just planted baby bok choy, which are these little seeds that are coming up in this area. And here's some of the black kale that we just ate. Let's go up to the next level. I've planted radishes here, which are just sprouting. This is some more black kale, which is beginning to flower, cilantro. This bed, these are some flowers and herbs which aren't yet up. This has all been harvested, but let's go up top. This is very good spinach. This is a variety of spinach, a Japanese variety that's sweet, low in oxalic acid. I'm letting some of it go to seed for next year. I've planted some scallions in here, which aren't up yet. These are carrots, which got quite battered down by some hard freezes that we had, but the carrots are great. I'll pull one up. And they are very, very sweet. In fact, I might have a bite. Oops, sorry. That is a sweet carrot. Oop. Yep. And let's see, beets. I have a lot of beets here. I've been lazy about harvesting them. I got to get them out of the ground. Let's see, you can see a really big one over here. Can you see these here? Ready to be pulled out. And these are, I haven't pulled one up, but I will. Get a good one here. No. These are white beets, which it's a variety called Avalanche. They have none of the earthy bitterness that some people don't like in beets. Probably are lower in some of the desirable stuff too. They don't have the red pigments. Lettuce is about done now. It's getting too hot for it. But I have my garlic patch here, and this should be ready to harvest in another month. So that's about it. That's what I got at the moment. As I said, it's right between crops.
Want to say Q&A?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead and tell everybody they can.
I'll
ask
be
in the
happy
chat.
to happy to answer questions if you have any.
Did you say that the spinach was low in oxalate?
It's Japanese spinach. It's a variety called Hoyo, Hoyo, and it is low in oxalic acid, and so it doesn't have the sharpness of some varieties of spinach. The dogs like to come up here and munch on some of the greens.
What can you do to help with the gout flare from shellfish?
I think you probably have to rely on conventional medication for that. You know, drink plenty of water and probably keep your intake of shellfish low.
What oil spray did you use at the beginning?
I use olive oil. That's extra virgin olive oil, and it was I believe, a bottle that I got from Trader Joe's.
Do you compost?
I do compost.
Can you introduce us to your dogs?
Kango, would you come up here? Kango doggy. Kango, come on. Hey, Kango, up here. Come here. Well, there he is right there. That's Kango. All right, that's Juno. Juno is about 7 and she's eating kale. And Kango is about 3.
What do you grow in spring and summer?
Well, I grow all the root crops, beets, carrots, radishes, spinach, lettuce, kale, all the cabbage family stuff, kale, collards, broccoli. I had a ton of broccoli this year, which has all been removed now. Herbs like cilantro, parsley, mint. And winter gardening here in Arizona is much easier than summer gardening. It takes much less water. There's few pests to deal with. And summer gardening, it's much more difficult. But so you can't grow lettuce and tomatoes here at the same time. You know, tomatoes need heat and lettuce doesn't like heat.
Best herbal blend for tea.
Oh, that's up to you. I mean, there's so many things. I love mint tea, so I use fresh spearmint. And I also make a cold infusion of it, which is really good in warm weather. You just put it in the room temperature water, let it sit for a while, and then put it in the refrigerator.
Where do you get your seeds from?
Well, some I save, like that spinach, which is a hard variety to get. I let go to seed and plant next year. But there are some companies that I regularly order from. One is Territorial Seeds, which I like a lot. Another is Johnny's Seeds. There's a company called Kitazawa that has Japanese seeds. And there's a company called Seeds of Italy that has Italian varieties.
Okay, cooking question. Raw or cooking? How do you choose?
I think an ideal diet is a mix of raw and cooked food. I think obviously some things like lettuce, I think, are probably best raw, although there are some recipes for grilling romaine lettuce that I've seen. I think carrots, although I like raw carrots, the micronutrients in them are much more available from cooked ones than from raw ones. So I think it depends.
Is too much kale harmful in any way to folks with thyroid issues since it absorbs salt from the ground?
I think the issue with cabbage family vegetables is it's not salt from the ground. It's that they can interfere with thyroid hormone production. And I think that what you want to do is just keep your intake of those vegetables constant, you know, not suddenly, eat a great quantity of them.
Do you know what kind of wood is for the garden bases?
I think we used cedar for this, which is water resistant.
What diet do you feed your dogs?
First of all, the dogs get taste of everything that I cook. You know, they are very interested in cooking, so I let them taste everything. They get a good kibble mixed with various kinds of canned foods, a lot of fish, And I give them eggs once in a while, but they really like human food, so they get to try everything.
Okay, we'll do a couple more minutes.
Sure.
Best thing for chronic fatigue right now.
You know, I would try cordyceps mushroom. That's really good for fatigue and low energy.
Do you prefer fresh, raw beets or cooked beets?
I mostly like cooked beets.
Do you have beehives?
No, I do not have beehives, but I got lots of bees here.
What can you grow in AZ in the hot part of the year?
Tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, eggplants. Those are the hot weather crops. Corn also.
What do you think of avocado oil?
That is my one of my first choice oils, and the one that I use when I don't want the flavor of olive oil in a dish. Avocado oil has a really good fatty acid profile, a high smoke point. It used to be not very economical, but the price has come down recently. So that's a great one to keep around.
How can you explain gestational diabetes in someone who follows a whole, good plant-based diet?
That is probably a genetic predisposition, and I don't know that there's much you can do about it except to really follow a low glycemic load diet.
Tell us about your love of fish oils.
Actually, I more love fish than fish oils. I used to take supplemental fish oil, but now I really more eat the fish that are sources of omega-3 fatty acids. I love sardines and kippers and herring. They're cheap. You can get them anywhere. I like good sardines or kippers mashed up with mustard and onion and lemon juice. I also like wild salmon, black cod if I can get it. No, those are the main fish that I like.
This has been a consistent question. Do you use any fertilizers or natural pesticides?
I rarely need to use pesticides in the winter in Arizona. I did have an infestation of aphids on daikon radishes that I grew, and I used neem oil on them, a neem spray. And also there's with all the cabbage family plants, there's a period when they're young that cabbage worms begin to attack them and eat the leaves. And there's a biological control called Bt toxin that's completely harmless to mammals, easy to get. I use that, gets rid of them. Those are the only pesticides that I've had to use. For fertilizers, I usually enrich the soil with bone meal, with phosphate rock, with seaweed meal. I use some blood meal as a nitrogen source. That's about it.
Awesome. A question about conferences, which you're going to be at our conference
Yes,
on May 6th.
I am.
Tell us a little about our conference, and then the question is, do you think they'll go back to live?
We have a great lineup of speakers for the conference. I'm looking forward to hearing some of the presentations a lot. Stuff on the microbiome, stuff about areas of controversy and medical diagnosis. I think it'll be great. And I'm sure we will go back to live conferences. There is a great demand for that. And I think we're getting to the time when we can do that again.
Great. What are the natural alternatives to statin drugs you would recommend?
Well, there's only one, and that's red yeast rice. It's an easily available supplement, a natural source of statins, used traditionally in Chinese cuisine as a food dye and considered a healthful additive, and for most people works as well as pharmaceutical statins.
Okay, we're gonna wrap it up.
Okay, I'll finish my carrot.
We'll do one more
Oh, yeah.
question. Best food for retinal issues.
Fast food for retinal issues?
Best food.
Best food. Well, you want a good supply of antioxidants in your diet, but it's probably best to take a supplement. And there are specially formulated supplements for eye health and retinal health that you can get that have the right antioxidants.
Great.
Okay.
That's great.
All right.
Let's
Good to
send
be
it
with you.